My brother's daughter took the $12,000 Rolex I bought myself for my birthday and flushed it down the restaurant toilet. "Now you've got nothing to show off," she said. I didn't say a word. That evening, Mom texted, "You're not welcome around us anymore." My brother liked it. Before sunrise, the restaurant manager sent me a 12-second security clip, and my brother called me 3 minutes later. The watch sat in its royal blue box on the passenger seat while I drove to the jeweler. 8 years of looking at it online. 8 years of moving money into a separate savings account every payday, $40, then $60, then $100 when I got promoted to senior analyst. 8 years of walking past the display case at Redmond's Fine Jewelry on my lunch break and telling myself, not yet, not yet, not yet. On November 8th, my 34th birthday, I walked in and said now. $12,000. The sales associate wrote the receipt by hand, which I did not expect. She wrote the total at the bottom and then, without asking, added a note beneath it in blue ink, "Happy birthday to yourself." I folded that receipt twice and put it in my wallet behind my debit card. The watch went on my wrist. Stainless steel Submariner with a black ceramic bezel. It was the heaviest thing I had ever worn that was not a burden. I sat in the parking lot for 3 full minutes just looking at it, not admiring it, understanding it. That watch was 8 years of packed lunches and declined invitations and weekends where I stayed home and read instead of spending. It was proof that patience turns into something you can hold. I drove home, changed into a navy blazer, and left the box on my nightstand with the lid open. That evening, I sat at a table for 5 at Bellini's on Harbor Street. My mother Iris was to my left. My brother Kent was across from me with his wife Petra and their 13-year-old daughter Zara. The reservation was mine. The dinner was mine. The birthday was mine. Everything else that happened at that table belonged to them. Bellini's was the kind of place with cloth napkins and candles that smelled like vanilla. I had booked it 3 weeks in advance because I wanted one single evening, where I could sit with my family and not feel like I was apologizing for existing. I work as a commercial credit analyst at a regional bank. I have been there 8 years. I evaluate business loan applications, review guarantor structures, flag fraudulent filings, and assess creditworthiness for lines of credit that most people never see. I am good at it. My family has never once asked me what I actually do. To them, I sit at a desk and move numbers. Kent, on the other hand, runs a moving company called Kent's Cargo. 3 trucks, 6 employees, a warehouse on Decatur Boulevard. He is the one who takes risks. He is the one who builds things. That is how Iris tells it. That is how it has always been told. Zara noticed the watch first. She leaned across the breadbasket and grabbed my wrist without asking, "Is that real?" I told her it was. Kent set down his glass of wine. He did not ask how much it cost. He already knew. I could tell by the way his eyes moved from the watch to Iris and then back to me, like something between them had been confirmed before I walked in. "Must be nice," he said. "Sitting at a desk all day counting other people's money and buying yourself presents no one asked you to open." Iris laughed. Not a big laugh. The kind that tells the rest of the table which side she has chosen. I did not respond. I ate my risotto. I talked to Petra about her landscaping project and the Japanese maple she was trying to keep alive through the fall. I let Kent's comments sit where he placed it because I had been letting his comments sit for 34 years, and the watch on my wrist was proof that none of them had ever stopped me from building what I wanted. Zara excused herself to use the restroom. She took her phone with her. I did not think about it. Petra asked me about work, and I told her about a filing I had caught the previous week. A contractor who had submitted 3 different income statements to 3 different lenders with 3 different revenue figures. Kent was looking at his phone under the table. Iris was refolding her napkin for the 3rd time. 4 minutes later, Zara came back, sat down, and smiled at me with a look I had never seen on a 13-year-old's face. A look that had been practiced. A look that belonged to someone older. "Now you have got nothing to show off," she said. I looked at my wrist. The watch was gone. I had taken it off to wash my hands before the appetizer and set it on the table beside my water glass. The spot where it had been was empty, just a faint circle in the condensation from the glass. Zara kept smiling. Kent leaned back in his chair like a man watching a scene he had already directed. Iris lifted her menu and studied the dessert section as if a 13-year-old had not just spoken a line that no 13-year-old writes on her own. "Where's my watch?" I asked. "I flushed it," Zara said. "Down the toilet." "It is gone." Petra's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. She set it down on her plate without looking at it. She looked at Kent. Kent did not look back. I stared at my bare wrist. The weight was gone. 8 years of discipline, sitting in a pipe beneath the restaurant floor. I reached into my back pocket and touched the fold of the receipt. Still there. The receipt did not weigh anything, but at that moment it was the only thing holding me to the table. "Kent," I said, "did you tell her to do that?" It was not a question. It was a sentence I handed him and watched him hold. He picked up his wine glass, took a slow drink, and said the words I will carry for the rest of my life. "You spent 7 years saving for a watch because you have nothing else in your life worth saving for. No wife, no kids, no one waiting at home. Just a desk at a bank where you count other people's money all day, and a watch you wear so strangers on the street think somebody loves you." Zara did you a favor. She flushed the only proof you ever had that you exist. The couple at the next table looked over. The woman put her hand on her husband's arm and kept it there. A woman 2 tables behind us turned her head sharply and then looked away, the way people do when they have heard something so cruel that looking at the speaker feels like participation. Petra's eyes filled. She pressed her napkin against her mouth and held it there with both hands, and when she lowered it, the lipstick had transferred onto the cloth in a shape that looked like a wound. A waiter who had been approaching our table with a bread refill stopped, read the air, turned around, and walked back to the kitchen without saying a word. Iris studied the dessert menu like nothing had been said. She turned the page. She adjusted her reading glasses. She ran her finger along the list of after-dinner coffees like the candle between us was still burning for a birthday and not a cremation. She had heard every word. She had chosen to hear none of them. I stood up. I placed $300 on the table for the bill. I walked out of Bellini's at 8:47 on a Friday night on my 34th birthday with no watch on my wrist and a receipt folded in my wallet that said $12,000 and "Happy birthday to yourself" in blue ink. I sat in my car in the parking lot and pressed my forehead against the steering wheel. Not because I was crying, because I was doing math. 8 years, $12,000, 1 flush, and a brother who had rehearsed a child to deliver a line about me having nothing. I stayed in that parking lot for 11 minutes. Then I drove home. That night at 11:16, Iris sent a text to the family group chat. 6 words: "You are not welcome around us anymore." Beneath it, a second notification: Kent had liked the message. I set my phone on the nightstand beside the empty Rolex box and turned the lamp off. The box sat open. The blue velvet interior held nothing. The receipt was in my wallet in my jacket on the chair beside the bed. One piece of the purchase survived. The one no one thought to flush. If you have ever had your family cut you out for having the nerve to buy yourself something you earned, you know the kind of quiet that follows. It is not peaceful. It is the sound of a house where nobody is going to call. If stories like this feel like yours, you are in the right place. This is Family Secret Tales. At 5:47 the next morning, a text arrived from a number I did not recognize. The name read Leon Modesto, General Manager, Bellini's Restaurant. The message read, "Mr. Arlo, I reviewed security footage from last night after my staff found damage to a restroom fixture. I thought you should see this before I file a property damage report." 12 seconds. Attached was a video file. I played it sitting on the edge of my bed in the gray pre-dawn light. The angle was from above the bar, wide shot covering the dining room. I could see our table. I could see Zara sitting beside Kent. At the 7-second mark, Kent picked up my watch from beside the water glass. He did it casually, the way you pick up a salt shaker. He leaned toward Zara, placed the watch in her hand, and pointed with one finger toward the hallway that led to the restrooms. Zara stood up. Kent leaned back and took a sip of wine. 12 seconds. One handoff. It was not a child's impulse. It was direction. Choreographed by my brother at a table where my mother sat and watched and said nothing. 3 minutes after I watched the clip, my phone rang. Kent's name on the screen. "Listen," he said. His voice was fast, tight, stripped of the confidence he had at the dinner table. "Whatever that restaurant sends you," Zara was playing around. "She is 13. Kids do stupid things. Do not make this into something it is not." I let the silence hold for 3 seconds. Then I said, "Why are you calling me at 5 in the morning about a video I have not told you about?" He hung up. That call was the crack, not the watch, not the flush, not the text, the call. Because the only reason Kent knew about the footage was that he had called Leon himself, probably within an hour of leaving the restaurant, to ask whether there were cameras in the dining room. And Leon, instead of answering Kent, sent the clip to me. I went to Iris's house 2 days later, on Monday, to pick up a jacket I had left the week before. The front door was unlocked. Iris was at the kitchen sink. I could hear Kent's voice coming from the back bedroom. He was on the phone. He was not being quiet. "I told you, the guarantee is still active. My brother signed it. Call the number on the application and the reference will confirm." I stopped in the hallway. My hand was still on the closet door where my jacket hung. "The payment is late because we had a contract fall through." That is a timing issue, not a credit issue. The guarantee covers the balance. My brother's voice, my name. A guarantee I had never signed. I work with loan guarantees 5 days a week. I read them, I verify them, I flag the ones where the signature does not match the application or the notary stamp comes from a state where the guarantor does not reside. I know what a forged guarantee sounds like before I know what it looks like. And what I heard through that bedroom door was a man defending a piece of paper with my name on it that I had never touched. I took my jacket off the hanger. I walked past the kitchen without looking at Iris. She said my name. I kept walking. I heard her set a dish down and say it again, louder. And I was already at the front door with the jacket over my arm and the fold of the receipt pressing against my hip through the wallet. I drove to my office. I sat down at my workstation. The morning light came through the window the same way it does every day, flat and institutional, the light of a place where things get checked. I opened my browser and pulled my own consumer credit report. 4 accounts I had never opened. An equipment loan for $85,000 through Pacific Ridge Commercial Lending. A second equipment note for $120,000 through Western Capital Finance. A third for $92,000 through First Mountain Credit Union, and a revolving commercial line of credit for $45,000 through Pacific Ridge. Total exposure listed under my name, $342,000. All 4 accounts listed me as personal guarantor. All 4 were connected to Kent's Cargo LLC. 3 trucks, 6 employees, a warehouse on Decatur Boulevard that I had never stepped inside. My brother had attached my name to every dollar he could not afford, and then he sat across from me at a birthday dinner and watched his daughter flush the one thing I bought with money that was actually mine. I did not call Kent. I did not call Iris. I opened a new folder on my desktop and labeled it with my brother's name, and I began pulling origination packets from each lender through the same professional channels I use every day at the desk, where, according to Kent, I count other people's money for a living. The packets arrived within a week. 4 applications. 4 signatures that were close to mine but leaned slightly too far to the right, the way a person writes when they are copying instead of signing. 4 notary stamps from the same notary, a woman named Gloria, who operated out of a up store 2 blocks from Kent's warehouse. Gloria had notarized my signature on all 4 applications. She had never met me. She had never seen my driver's license. She had never watched me sign a single page. But the thing that stopped me was page 6 of the Pacific Ridge application. The lender's internal verification notes, standard procedure for guarantor review, something I read 10 times a week in other people's files, The note said, contacted reference, mother of applicant and guarantor. Confirmed guarantor is aware and consents. Call originated from landline ending in 4738. Iris's landline. The phone that sat on the counter in her kitchen beside the jar of wooden spoons. I pulled the second lender's verification notes. Same landline. Same voice. Same words. Yes, my son Arlo is aware and consents. My mother did not just stand beside Kent while he forged my name on $342,000 in commercial debt. She picked up the phone in her kitchen, the same kitchen I was paying to renovate, and told a stranger at a bank that her younger son had agreed to guarantee loans he had never seen. She confirmed it. Twice. I almost stopped there. The receipt pressed against my thigh through the wallet leather, and for 1 full minute I sat at my desk at work, staring at a screen full of numbers that proved my own family had turned me into a signature on a page, and I considered putting the folder in the trash and closing the browser and never looking at another document connected to them again. But the receipt had a date on it, November 8th. And the $120,000 equipment loan had a guarantee dated November 6th, 2 days before my birthday. Kent had forged my name on a 6-figure loan and then sat across from me 48 hours later and watched his daughter destroy the thing I bought with money I actually earned. That was not carelessness. That was contempt with the schedule. The next morning, I pulled the contractor invoices for Iris's house renovation. Over 3 years, I had sent her $28,000 for her kitchen, roof, and plumbing. Direct payments. I called each contractor and asked them to confirm what they received. The total that reached actual contractors was $9,200. The remaining $18,800 had been invoiced through a company called KRC Project Services LLC, registered at the Decatur Boulevard warehouse. KRC was Kent's shell company. The checks to KRC were signed by Iris. My mother cashed my renovation money through my brother's fake company and then texted me that I was not welcome around them anymore. I called Harlan that evening, my father's brother, retired welder, 58, lives 40 minutes east in a duplex he bought outright in 2011 with cash from 30 years of union scale. Harlan was the man who drove to my apartment the night my father died on a construction site 12 years ago. He did not bring food. He did not bring a casserole or a card or a speech. He walked through my door at 1 a.m. and sat on the floor with his back against the wall beside me and did not say a word for 6 hours. When the sun came up, he made coffee in a pot I did not know how to use and said, "Your dad built things with his hands and people tried to take them from him too. Same fight, different tools." Then he drove home. Harlan drove over. He did not ask if I needed him to. He knocked once and walked in carrying a 6-pack of root beer because Harlan has never touched alcohol in his life, and he assumes anyone worth visiting feels the same way. He sat at my kitchen table, and I put the folder in front of him and let him read. He read slowly. He turned each page like he was inspecting a weld seam, looking for the flaw that would make the whole thing fail under pressure. When he got to the phone verification page, the one with Iris's landline number, he stopped. He set the page down and pressed his thumb and index finger against the bridge of his nose. "How long?" he said. "The oldest loan is 3 years. The newest one was signed 2 days before my birthday dinner. 2 days before." He said it like he was tasting something rotten. 2 days before your birthday, your brother forged your name on a 6-figure loan, and then he sat across from you and had his daughter destroy the one thing you bought for yourself. Yes, Harlan picked up his root beer. He held it without drinking. Your father would have broken a chair over Kent's back. You know that. I know. You are not your father. And that is why you are going to win this. File everything. Do not warn them. Do not call them. Do not negotiate. The filing is the negotiation. That is the only language people like this understand. He stayed for 2 hours. We did not talk about Kent for the rest of the visit. We talked about the Timbers game and his neighbor's fence project and the price of lumber at the yard on 5th Street. When he left, he put his hand flat on the folder and said, "Keep copies of everything. When this is over, frame the receipt. The watch is replaceable. The fact that you earned it is not. I met with an attorney named Fleming the next afternoon. 47, gray suit, yellow legal pad, no interruptions. When I finished laying out the evidence, he set the pad down and said, "We are filing fraud complaints with all 4 lenders. An identity theft affidavit with the FTC, a police report for forgery, a criminal referral to the DA for your brother and your mother, a bond complaint against the notary, and a civil suit for the diverted renovation funds plus property destruction. Your total unauthorized exposure is $342,000. Your confirmed loss is $30,800. This is not a family disagreement. This is felony forgery and wire fraud." I signed the filings that afternoon. Fleming submitted everything before close of business. I almost called Iris that night. My hand was on the phone, her name was on the screen, and I could feel the pull of 30 years of being the son who smooths things over and makes the dinner reservation and sends the check without being asked. But the receipt in my wallet had a date on it, and 2 days before that date my mother had spoken my name into a telephone and given a bank permission to put $120, 000 of someone else's debt on my shoulders. I set the phone face down on the nightstand. The empty Rolex box was still there. I closed the lid. On November 25th, I drove to Kent's warehouse on Decatur Boulevard. 6:40 in the evening. The parking lot had 3 trucks, 2 of which I now knew were financed with my forged signature. Kent was in the back office. His business partner was at the second desk reviewing invoices. Kent looked up when I walked through the door. "What do you want?" I did not answer. I set my bag on the chair by the entrance, unzipped it, and placed the first document on Kent's desk. The Pacific Ridge origination packet. My forged signature circled in red ink. Kent looked at it. His hand moved toward it. "That is a copy," I said. "The originals are with 4 lenders, the FTC, the DA's office, and my attorney. Do not touch it." I placed the second document. Western Capital Finance. I placed the third. First Mountain Credit Union. I placed the fourth. The revolving line of credit. Kent's partner stopped typing. He turned his chair slowly and looked at the papers accumulating on Kent's desk. Kent's voice shifted. Higher, faster, the composure from the birthday table was gone. "What is this? What are you doing?" I said nothing. I placed the notary records. Gloria at the Up store. 4 visits. 4 stamps. 0 verified identifications. "You are blowing this up," Kent said. "I was going to tell you. I was going to pay it off before you even knew. This is a timing thing." I placed the next sheet. Iris's phone verification record. The lender's internal notes in black and white. Mother of applicant and guarantor. Confirmed consent. Call from landline 4738. Kent's partner stood up. He walked around his desk to Kent's side and read the Pacific Ridge filing. He read it for 10 seconds. 15. He looked at Kent. "Kent, is my name on any of these?" "Silence, Kent. Did you use forged guarantees on any of the trucks we share?" Kent's mouth opened. His lips moved. Nothing came out. The partner picked up his keys. He said, "I am calling my attorney first thing in the morning. Do not contact me tonight." He walked past me and out the warehouse door. His truck started and pulled out of the lot. The overhead light buzzed in the empty space where his desk chair still spun slowly. Kent was still sitting. His hands were flat on the desk. His chest was rising and falling in short bursts. The color had drained from the skin under his eyes. His left leg was bouncing against the floor, and he could not stop it. I placed the last document. The KRC Project Services invoices. $18,800 skimmed from the renovation fund I paid for our mother's house. I picked up my bag, zipped it, and walked out. The documents stayed on his desk, 7 pages in a row, each one a door that would never close again. 3 days later, I went to Iris's house. Harlan was already there. He had driven 40 minutes without being asked. Petra was sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of tea she had not touched. Kent was standing by the refrigerator with his arms crossed and his jaw set in the way that used to intimidate me when I was 12. I was not 12 anymore. Iris began. This has gone far enough, Arlo. Whatever Kent did, he did it for his family. You do not have a family. You have a watch and a savings account. He has a daughter and a business and responsibilities you have never had to carry. I stood at the edge of the table. I did not sit. I did not raise my voice. I opened the folder and laid every count flat on the wood where we had eaten Sunday dinner for 30 years. Kent, you forged my signature on 4 commercial loan applications totaling $342,000. That is forgery. You used a notary who never verified my identity. That is fraud. You created a shell company called KRC Project Services and ran $18,800 of the renovation money I paid for Mom's house through that company into your own accounts. That is theft. Mom, you called 2 lenders from your landline and told them I consented to be a guarantor on loans I had never seen. That is wire fraud. You signed the checks to Kent's shell company with money I gave you for your kitchen and your roof. And then you sent me a text message telling me I was not welcome around this family anymore. I looked directly at Kent. You said I sit at a desk and count other people's money. You were right. I counted yours. 4 loans, 3 equipment notes, 1 credit line, and a shell company invoicing our mother's kitchen renovation. I count money for a living, Kent. You should have remembered that before you put my name on yours. Kent's hands dropped from his crossed arms. His right hand grabbed the counter behind him, and his knuckles went white. His left knee buckled, and he caught himself against the side of the refrigerator. His breathing broke into short, shallow gasps. A muscle in his jaw was twitching, and he could not make it stop. His eyes were moving around the room like he was looking for a door that did not exist. Iris tried to recover. Arlo, please, we are your family. Kent was struggling. He was too proud to ask for help. He was not too proud to forge, I said. And you were not too ashamed to verify. I pulled out my phone and played the audio file. The lender's recorded verification call. Iris's own voice, slightly muffled, slightly hurried, but unmistakable. Yes, my son Arlo is aware and consents. The kitchen went still the way a room goes still when a recording does the talking for you. Harlan, sitting at the far end of the table with his hands around an empty coffee mug, closed his eyes and shook his head once. Petra's cup rattled against the saucer. She pressed both palms flat on the table to keep her hands from shaking. Iris stared at the phone in my hand like it was a mirror showing a face she did not recognize. Kent tried the first thing. The bargain. Arlo, come on. We can work this out. I will pay it back. I will refinance everything under my own name. Just give me 6 months. You had 3 years, I said. You used every one of them to take more. He tried the second thing. The minimizer. It was never supposed to go this far. I needed a bridge. The business had 1 bad quarter, and the banks would not approve me on my own. I was protecting my family. You would have done the same. I would not have forged your signature to do it. He tried the third thing. The redirect. His voice rose and he jabbed a finger toward me. You know what? This is exactly what you do. You sit back and keep score and wait for someone to make a mistake so you can feel like the smart one. You have been waiting your whole life to prove you are better than me. Harlan spoke without looking up from his mug. Kent, stop. Kent's finger lowered. He tried one more. The last one. His voice cracked. I was going to tell you. I swear I was going to tell you before any of this. The timing just got away from me. You were going to tell me, I said, after you told your daughter to flush my watch so I would stop paying attention to my own money. After Mom texted me that I was not welcome in this family. After you liked that message. The timing did not get away from you, Kent. You planned every part of this. The security footage shows you handing Zara the watch and pointing her toward the bathroom. You coached a 13-year-old to destroy my property so I would be too angry about $12,000 to notice $342,000. Petra made a sound. Not a word. The kind of sound a person makes when they understand something for the first time that they will never be able to ununderstand. I set the folder on the table. You flushed a $12,000 watch. I found $342,000 of debt with my name forged on every page. The receipt is still in my wallet. That was the line. 24 words. The room received it the way a room receives a verdict. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. No more renovations, I said. No more Sunday dinners. No more birthday dinners where your daughter destroys what I earned. This is the last conversation. My attorney has filed identity theft with the FTC, forgery charges with the DA, fraud complaints with all 4 lenders, and a civil suit for $30,800 in property destruction and diverted funds. Every filing has your name on it, Kent, and 2 of them have yours, Mom. Petra stood up. She did not look at Kent. She walked into the living room, picked up Zara's jacket from the couch, and called her daughter's name once. Zara came down the stairs with her backpack already on, as if she had been listening and already knew. Petra took her hand. They walked out the front door. She did not close it behind her. Harlan stood up. He looked at Iris for a long time. Then he said, "Your husband would be ashamed of both of you. He built a life with his hands for these boys, and you let one of them steal the other one's name." Harlan walked past Kent without looking at him. He put his hand on my shoulder for 2 seconds at the door. Then he drove home. 2 days later, Kent called. His voice was different. Lower, slower. He told me he had been having chest pains. He said the stress was making it hard to sleep, hard to breathe, hard to think. He said if I went forward with the filings, the pressure would put him in the hospital. "You were going to kill your own brother over money," he said. I did not answer. That evening, I drove to the Decatur warehouse. I slid a manila envelope under the office door. Inside was the certified filing receipt from the DA's office, stamped and dated that morning. No note, no name, just the document. If you are still listening, stay with me. Because the fallout is where the title stops being a story and starts being a consequence. This is Family Secret Tales, and consequences are the part that matters most. Kent's business partner filed for dissolution of their shared assets within a week. The 2 jointly held truck leases triggered a cross-default clause the moment the partner withdrew his name. Pacific Ridge called the $120,000 equipment note in full. Kent could not service it alone. He called me once during this period. I let it go to voicemail. He said, "You are destroying everything I built. You could stop this with one phone call." I saved the voicemail. Fleming told me it might be useful. On a Friday morning in early December, a repossession flatbed pulled into the Decatur lot at 7:15. 2 men in work boots and high visibility vests hooked Kent's box truck first, then the 26-foot straight truck with his company name painted on the side. Kent watched from the office window. A driver named Miguel, who had been with the company since opening day, walked up to the glass and knocked. Kent opened the door. "Boss, am I clocking out or just going home?" Kent looked at the flatbed. His truck was halfway up the ramp. His name was still on the side. "Go home, Miguel." Miguel stood there for a moment. Then he unbuttoned his company polo, folded it neatly, and placed it on the desk beside the stack of documents that had started all of this. He did not say goodbye. He walked to his car, started it, and pulled out of the lot for the last time. Petra moved to her mother's house in Henderson with Zara. She packed 1 suitcase for herself and 1 for Zara, while Kent was at the warehouse trying to negotiate with the lenders. While clearing the filing cabinet for her passport, she found the KRC Project Services Incorporation papers. She sat on the bedroom floor with the papers in her lap and read them twice. She called her mother first. Then, she called Kent. "I found the LLC," she said. "I read the articles of incorporation. I read the invoices. You created a fake company and billed your own mother's renovation through it. Arlo paid $28,000 for her kitchen and her roof, and you took $18,000 of it. You forged his name on loans that could have destroyed his credit for a decade. You made your mother lie to a bank. And you used our daughter, our 13-year-old daughter, to break a man's property in a public restaurant so he would be too upset to look at his own financial records." Kent said something. Petra did not let him finish. I packed Zara's bag. I packed mine. We are at my mother's. Do not come tonight. Kent stood in the kitchen holding his phone. Zara's bedroom door was open. Her bed was made with the pink comforter she had picked out the previous spring. Her closet was half empty. The hangers swayed slightly from the draft through the hallway. The house had 2 empty bedrooms by evening. Iris stopped answering her phone after the Dawes office contacted her. The lenders each opened internal investigations. Gloria, the notary, had her commission suspended pending a bonding review. Iris retained her own attorney 3 days after Christmas, using money from a savings account that, as far as I could trace, Kent had not yet found. I almost drove to her house. The receipt was in my wallet, and the filings were done, and my apartment was quiet in a way that felt less like peace and more like amputation. I thought about sitting in the chair by her kitchen window the way I used to on Sunday mornings when my father was alive, and the house smelled like coffee, and the newspaper was on the table, and nothing was forged, and nothing was stolen, and nobody was pretending. But the receipt had a date, November 8th, and on November 6th, my mother had called a bank and said my name into a telephone like it was a key she had copied without asking. The chair by that window was not mine anymore. It never would be again. 3 weeks after the confrontation, Kent was living in the warehouse office on Decatur Boulevard. He slept on an air mattress wedged between 2 filing cabinets. 1 truck remained in the lot. 2 lender default notices were taped to the wall above the desk where his business partner used to sit. The desk was empty now. The second chair was pushed against the wall. Zara visited on a Saturday in mid-December. She sat on a folding chair across from Kent. She set her backpack on the concrete floor and looked at him for a long time. "Dad," she said, "I know you told me to do it, with the watch. At the restaurant, I remember you showing me which door. I remember you putting it in my hand and pointing." Kent looked at her. His mouth opened. His eyes moved to the wall behind her, then to the floor tiles, then back to her face. He tried to speak. Nothing came. "Why did you tell me to do that?" He tried again. His lips shaped a word that did not arrive. He looked at his hands. He looked at the air mattress. He looked at the single truck parked outside the window. Zara waited. She waited longer than any 13-year-old should have to wait for her father to explain why he turned her into a weapon against her own uncle. Then she picked up her backpack, zipped it slowly, and walked outside. She sat on the curb and called Petra to come get her. Kent watched her through the window. He did not follow her out. Kent sat in the folding chair Zara had left. 1 truck, 2 notices, an air mattress in a warehouse that used to hold 3 trucks and 6 employees, and $342,000 worth of loans, guaranteed by a brother who sat at a desk and counted other people's money and never once asked his family for anything in return. It was December 21st when I sat at my desk in my apartment with a cup of coffee and watched the morning light come through the window. The city was gray, not a dramatic gray, just the ordinary gray of a winter morning that does not owe you anything and is not pretending to be beautiful. I had a new watch on my wrist, a $40 Timex with a leather band. It kept perfect time. It weighed almost nothing. Nobody would ever look at it and say I was showing off. Nobody would ever flush it to teach me a lesson. And nobody would ever need to, because the lesson was already learned. The things you earn cannot be destroyed by the people who resent you for earning them. They can flush the object. They cannot flush the record. Harlan had mailed me something 3 days earlier. A small wooden frame, dark walnut, hand-sanded. No note. No card. Just the frame, wrapped in newspaper, with Harlan's return address in pencil on the box. I unfolded the receipt. The paper was soft from 6 weeks in my wallet. The creases had gone white. $12,000. November 8th. Happy birthday to yourself, in blue ink at the bottom in the jeweler's handwriting. I placed it inside the frame and set it on the desk beside my coffee mug. The wood was warm and smooth. Harlan had sanded it by hand. I could tell because the corners were slightly rounded the way corners only get when someone takes the time. The receipt was not a receipt anymore. It was proof that I had earned something real with my own name, my own money, my own 8 years of saying not yet. No one forged it. No one verified it with a phone call to a landline. No one signed it but me. The Timex on my wrist ticked quietly. $40. It told the same time as a $12,000 watch. The coffee was warm. The apartment was mine. The name on every document in the folder was mine, and nobody in that family would ever be close enough to take anything from me again. Thank you for staying until the end. If this story reminded you of something you have been carrying, or someone you need to stop carrying, share it with the person who needs to hear it. Subscribe to Family Secret Tales, and I will see you in the next one.